A case for the dissolution of all religion. I can't say that any major religion has actually directly damaged my life as such. I do, however, often find myself working with people who have chronic illness, for whom life has been made exceptionally difficult by their or their parents' religious beliefs. It's for them that I'm going out to bat. It's because of them that I was drawn to research the history of religion. Let's examine firstly the idea of belief. The dictionary definition is as follows: an acceptance that something exists or is true, especially one without proof. Most dictionary definitions damn religion from a scientific perspective right out of the box. As we move to a more scientific way of looking at life, as we have done from the 1950s onwards, people are deserting religion in their droves for this very reason. Science seems to offer a religion of its own. It suggests a way of being and understanding that has now taken the place of religion for many people. The flawed thinking here is that science has all the answers. The fundamental tenets that hold science together are themselves just beliefs. There's still no unified theory that would allow us to bring the two main branches of science into agreement yet. Although my friend Dr. Jude Curran has presented one restating the laws of thermodynamics that does just this. Sadly, science seems to be too riven to be able to accept such answers as hers yet. Science is, in fact, just layer upon layer of beliefs compacted so hard that it just looks more real than religion right now. There's a simple thought experiment that goes like this. Can you prove that you exist? It's the basic brain in a jar idea. Can you prove to me that you and I are not just brains in jars in the laboratory of some sadistic alien? Maybe we're some lab rats wired to complex computers, having simulations run through our heads. No matter which way you wrangle and wriggle, it's not possible to 100% state that this isn't true or possible. These days, 3D simulations can be totally immersive and encompassing. Our little brains can lose themselves so deeply in a game, it's really like being there and living it. A cinema film shown at 25 frames per second can easily draw us in so deeply that for an hour or two we're totally absorbed in another world. It wouldn't take that devious an alien to dupe us into believing that everything we do is real, when it's all a simulation that's being run through our tiny little brains. It would be nice if those aliens could tidy up some of the questions that science skips over. Near-death experiences, NDEs, levitation, telekinesis, and crop circles, to name but a few. Back to the root of religion then. For a while I was working on the root of languages to try and find the roots of religion. Thus far, studies seem to suggest that a language called proto-indo-european, or PI for short, existed. It seems likely that humanity migrated from North Africa to the steppes of Russia, finally back or concentrated more in the areas of Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Israel, Egypt. Thence they spread out east to India, to Europe, and over a supposed land bridge to the Americas. There are many competing theories, but this seems to be the nub of it. Migration is not a very linear thing. It's very messy. Just yesterday, a new species of Homo sapien was discovered in China. It seems fishy that the well-developed peoples of South America would have had to effectively travel via Canada to get to Argentina too. I prefer to think that the roots of humanity were already sown when the continents divided. It seems to make more sense. Now we are tracking lots of different strains of humans. It would seem more obvious that we were also evolving in different ways in different parts of the globe simultaneously. We haven't even factored in Thor Heyerdahl and his kon-tiki expedition in 1947, where he essentially sailed a bale of hay 8,000 kilometres across an ocean. I feel sure our ancestors figured out boats and fishing pretty quickly, making migration even more messy to track. There are many studies of early religion which groups these practices as shamanism. A shaman was a tribal medicine man. Through trial and error, observation of nature, one individual would be given the duties to look after the others. If you understood the skies, the plants and the animals, then people would trust you to guide them. This core knowledge would be passed from generation to generation, from tribe to tribe, through marriage or war, no doubt. Many things have been written in the last 100 years and before of the function of hallucinogenic plants in the shaman's pharmacopoeia. If you think about it, lead a totally normal life, then the shaman gives you a cup of mushroom tea, and for a while you're in a technicolor version of nature where animals and ideas swirl round you. Sorry, I'm delving into youthful personal experiences here. You'd have to be pretty impressed by this character, provided he didn't inadvertently kill you. There's much made of Siberian shamans. A Disney caricature of a mushroom grows abundantly in their region. Tall white stalk, bright red cap, white dots on it. It has a very powerful hallucinogenic effect. It seems that they were picked in the run-up to the winter solstice. The shamans would hang these bright mushrooms in the trees to dry. They would be delivered by the shaman to his clients, who would then hang them in socks over the fireplace to dry even further before eating them. Anything sound familiar there? Happy Christmas? Be it mushrooms, Amazonian plants or marijuana, we've been using psychedelics in a sacred way for millions of years. Just look at a bar anywhere on a Friday night after work. We love to get out of our heads, just for a little while. Reality can be so upsetting and drab sometimes. Barman, drug dealer, shaman, it's a pretty thin line. Back to languages then. Pi was universally spoken, it's thought, by the bulk of people living in Anatolia or Asia Minor. At some stage, about 3,200 years before the Common Era, we start to use symbols for convenience, and we have the emerging of cuneiform. This symbolic language allows transactions to be registered, for laws to be written down. At this time, the Sumerian Empire is pretty much first to emerge and organize. Eventually, Sanskrit evolves from their civilization as the first written language. Cuneiform seems to give birth to 3 or 4 major strands of language. Sanskrit, which seems to spread east, eventually becoming the root of many Indian languages, and Hinduism, and to the west, where it forms the basis of Egyptian hieroglyphics, amongst others. The movement of languages is just as complex as the movement of peoples. Clearly one carries the other. Nothing is clear-cut. But these broad brushstrokes give us a basic understandings. The oldest surviving documents on Earth are basic understandings of man's interactions with God. We have the Sumerian-based Vedas that emerge as Hinduism in India, including the wonderful Upanishads. A little later we find the Book of the Dead and similar funereal practices from the Egyptian language. If I were asked to summarize the content of the Upanishads in one short pithy sentence, I would point to the Sanskrit phrase tum tvat asi, which translates as I am that. The Upanishads tells us that we are God, and the whole universe is made of awareness. Game, set and match for me. The earliest understanding of religion on our planet is don't get caught up in any religion because you are God. Quite literally, the only sin on earth is not knowing that you are God. And so am I, of course. The unfortunate outcome for this, for the Judean-Christian line, is that with Egypt as its stem, we discover that the stories in our Bible are mostly appropriated from Egyptian mythology and not real events in Israel. Although there are a few clerics who will still accept this fact. How about we study the Egyptian god Horus for a few moments? Horus was about 1,000 years before Jesus. I'm going to lift a passage directly now from an article by a J. Warner Wallace. He says, "What if I told you there was once an ancient religion whose god was conceived by a virgin named Mary and had a stepfather named Seb, Joseph? What if I told you this god was born in a cave and his birth was announced by an angel, heralded by a star and attended by shepherds on the 25th of December. He attended a special rite of passage at the age of 12, although the ancient texts describing this god are silent about his life between the ages of 12 and 30. At 30 years of age, this god was baptized in a river. His baptizer was later beheaded. He had 12 disciples, performed miracles, exorcised demons, raised someone from the dead, and even walked on water. They called him Usa, the ever-becoming Son and the Holy Child. He delivered a Sermon on the Mount, and his followers recounted his sayings. He was transfigured on a mount and eventually crucified between two thieves. He was buried for 3 days in a tomb and rose from the dead. His followers called him Way, the Truth, the Light, Messiah, God's anointed Son, Son of Man, Good Shepherd, Lamb of God, Word made flesh, Word of Truth, the Cursed or Anointed One. He was also known as the Fisher, was associated with fish, lamb, lion. According to this ancient religion, the god came to fulfill the law and was supposed to reign for 1,000 years. Sounds a lot like Jesus, doesn't it? According to those who deny the existence of Jesus, however, this description is of a mythological precursor to Christianity, the Egyptian god named Horus. Thank you, J. Warner Wallace. In J. Warner Wallace's article, he goes on to try to debunk all of these claims. But there's no smoke without fire. Having listed all these claims so well, he tells us it's all about atheists who are trying to make Christianity look bad. There's none so blind as those who will not see, I say. The Old Testament tells us how long the Israelites spent in Egypt. The other aspect that seems conclusive is the worship of the sun. It rises every day and sets every night. Ancient man understood the power of the sun to give life. Father Sun, Mother Earth, everything springs from their interaction. If you were going to tell stories round a campfire, these would be the things that you would personify. Everything on earth is a balance of yin and yang, male and female, life and death. The sun has been worshipped as the source of life in every part of the world deeply from prehistoric times. The stars have been our guides to planting seasons. The heavens divided into 12 regions and personified 2, giving us our calendar. I'll just insert a simple reference here. The Son, S-U-N, of God, and his 12 disciples. Sorry, should that be spelled S-O-N? Every major religion has its solar deities. Everything is so deeply steeped in the past that we'll never be 100% sure. What we can be sure of is the feeling of authenticity. Each of us can sense at the deepest level when we're being lied to. We can read in another's face with great ease. There's something at the depth of modern religion that no longer rings true for so many of us. The easiest thing is just not to bother, not look too deeply. Just take the word as gospel. Hey, don't look into the gospel story too deeply either, or you'll find about 76 other gospels that were redacted from the Bible during the Nicene Decree because they didn't fit the story that the Pope wanted people to believe. If you don't ask the question, then your apple cart will never be upset. You can go to your grave believing whatever your parents and priests told you. Remember the definition of belief? It's up to you. If you can't be bothered to seek the truth, then remain in the darkness. Nobody will ever force you. The other path is to realize yourself. Now, let's not get confused with spirituality here. There's as much a misunderstanding of the nature of true self and the path thereof of spirituality as there is in religion. In most cases, we've just taken the mumbo-jumbo out of the church and start to practice this in our own homemade temples. I'm really happy about the freedom that this has brought us, but there is no new clarity. The Upanishads tells us, "You are God and so am I." Until we realize total awareness for ourselves, then the rest is just bullshit. Meditate yourself to sleep. Dance round fires. Drink ayahuasca until you shit and puke yourself stupid. Tell yourself that smoking ganja will awaken you. It's just no different to sleeping. Do yoga and qigong till you're blue in the face. There's only one game in town, and that is self-realization. Ask yourself, who am I? Don't stop until you've sliced yourself into 1,000 pieces, until you've burned away all of the rubbish, until you've stripped reality, whatever the hell that might be, away until nothing is left. Then, my friend, you're getting closer. And next time you're outside, give thanks to the sun.